Hello, Victor Robert Kahn here. I purchased the first issue bundle from Alterna Comics. It's 19 first issues for $27. And this will be the first part of my review series on Alterna Comics. First up is Cyko KO. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I'm really not sure. I'm not sure if the KO is for knockout or if it's initials or if he's doing something like Louis C.K. I'm also not sure if Cyko is supposed to be a robot or an android or just a guy in armor. So the humor in this is kind of similar to The Simpsons. And this issue involves Cyko getting involved in a surfing contest, which actually reminded me a bit of the surfing contest that Batman was involved in against the Joker in the 1966 TV series. I think the art and the lettering in this are really good. I'm not really the target audience for this. I think it's aimed at someone a little bit younger than me. But it is pretty funny. It's good. I would definitely recommend it. The only bad thing about it, I would say, is that Cyko's eyes are these little diamond or triangle shapes, and they make him look like he's always looking upwards. That's about the only thing that I would change about this one. Next up is Go West, number 1 in a 3-issue limited series. This is yet another story that takes place in a post-apocalyptic future in the year 2136. It's written by Garrett Gunn, and the art is by Saint Yak. I don't know if that's his real name or not, or just his pen name. The art is very good. It's really the best thing about this. One of the other good things is it starts with it's another story about revenge. I don't really care for stories about revenge because you kind of know what it's going to be. The main character is either going to get his revenge or he's not, and it's very hard to do a twist on that. So this opens and there's quite a bit of atmosphere. It's basically monochrome except for some red for blood and things like that. It begins by doing what good storytelling is supposed to do, showing instead of telling. So we see the bloodstains here, broken toy, and here you have one panel of a broken lock. So that's where the bad guys kicked in the door, and they came upstairs and killed the family, except for the hero, of course. So then we have a couple pages of the hero thinking over what he's going to do, get a little bit about his backstory. And all this art is really good. It's the best thing about it. That's really the selling point. Another nice little touch here is the hero's eating Tasty Bears cereal. It looks like that's a reference to the other Alterna comic, The Fear Diaries. And you just assume like that's something that he got for his kids to eat, and it's just there on the table. So that's what he's going to eat for breakfast this morning before he goes out and kills the people who murdered his family. So he's gonna field strip and clean his weapon, check his ammo. I like this panel of him loading the rounds into the magazine. It's just a nice little touch of realism, and the art is very, very good. Again, I keep harping on that. So then our hero drives out to which is called the Western Territories. It just says, "Turn back, the West is death." I also like this panel of the motorcycle, just the way it's drawn in perspective. That's very good. And he's here, just silhouetted. It's just enough. Then he comes up to the camp with the bad guys, and skip ahead a little bit. And there's shooting, and some bad guys get killed. And that's all I want to talk about as far as the story. I really like this one. I'm going to get the other issues. My only complaints are again, it's a revenge story, which I don't really like very much. And it's yet another Alterna Comics with a futuristic post-apocalyptic setting. But other than that, I think it's great, and I would recommend it. Next up, we have Sonitus, which is number 1 in a 3-issue limited series, written by Cody Sousa, art by Dan Shepard, and colors by Cecilia Lovalvo. Sonitus just means noise or sound. In the first page, instead of a splash page, we just have the panel showing a man going through the swamp until he gets to this house. And then we do have a very nice double-page spread. And this is the house where this fella used to come and hang out with his friends to party and drink beer when he was younger. And he's come back because he's haunted by this sound that is only in his head. So we see on this page, the artwork is very, very good. It's a little bit abstract, but I don't think that's a problem. It's just very stylized. I think this artwork is good enough that if this was in black and white, it would still be good. Now, the only thing I have to complain about is that the color is good, but it's a little too one color. It needs a bit more contrast. In some of the panels, like this one, in this panel, you can see that there is some yellow light coming from the outside. There's blue light here. His coat is a light orange. If that was a brighter red or something, that would probably be a little better. But it's a nice way to do it. If it was lighting a movie, that would be fine. And you see the same thing in these other panels here. The other thing I want to point out is the way that it's drawn is this artist has a very good sense of composition. As this character approaches the house, it shows him in silhouette, and then he is basically surrounded. So you have a dark figure with a light background framed by a dark object. And you see the same thing in this panel. He comes in, the room is dark, he's silhouetted, it draws your attention to him. Most of this issue is just him poking around the house. I don't want to give away too much. And then he comes across this orange shoe, which triggers a flashback in him. And we see that there's no dialogue for the flashback, but that's okay. You get the gist of what's going on. We see him when he's partying back in the old days with his friends. And then there's this quote here where he says, "My mom used to say, Ben, the only way to get over your fear is to learn to face it." So then he walks through the house, he comes to the stairs, and then in the final page of the issue, he's going upstairs. So clearly something happened upstairs that he feels like he has to deal with. I like this one. The art is good. The story so far is good. I'm going to pick it up the next 2 issues so I can find out what happens. I recommend this one. My only complaint being, I have 2 of them. One is that the art, the coloring is just a little too monochrome, and the lettering is also in some cases just a little too small for I think for most people to be comfortable to read. But other than that, I'm going to recommend Sonitus. Next up is Croak. It's another 3-issue limited series. It's written by Cody Andrew Sousa, art by Francisco Yaquinta, and the colors are by Chris Halloran. And my main issue with this issue is actually the colors, which I'll get to in a minute. So it starts out with our 3 leads going out for a weekend of camping at some remote spot. And first things first, they have an argument. They're kind of like the bickering victims in a Friday the 13th movie, except better written. And this is, instead of a single splash page, there's this nice double splash page as far as the art, but I think the coloring is just a little too muddy for this. There's no contrast, and that's one of the major problems with this one. So if you look in this first page, here's our road. Now this is supposed to be the car, so these should be the headlights. If this was colored yellow, like it is in the next panel, it would stand out a lot more and be a lot more clear what's going on. Almost all of the pages have the same color scheme for each one. Also, I have to point out this art that this young lady seems to have taken a shovel to the face and had her bridge of her nose caved in, and it's like that in every single shot. So again, here's another couple of pages that shows what I'm talking about as far as the color scheme is just too similar for every single page. Every background is the same. And at one point they talk about doing something before dark, and it's already colored as if it's already been dark for some time. So they end up telling a scary campfire story, and it's actually good because it's predictable, but in a good way, in that you kind of expect these certain tropes, and this kind of plays with them. And after that, some stuff happens, and I don't really want to get too much into it because it'll give away some of the story. But other than the coloring, I think this is really good. Croak's got a good story. I'm looking forward to getting the next few issues so I can find out what's going on. Everything except the coloring is good. The art is particularly good. So I would definitely recommend getting Croak if you like a kind of scary offbeat story. Mother Russia, art and story by Jeff McCombsey. So this one takes place in Stalingrad. It's basically a retelling of the Battle of Stalingrad with zombies. If Alterna Comics has one flaw, I think they just have a few too many post-apocalyptic stories and too many stories with zombie-type creatures or something similar to zombies. So this one is about a young Russian woman who is stuck in Stalingrad. She's sniping at zombies and Germans from her spot up in this tower. It's got a nice little splash page there. So the whole book's in black and white. I don't know why they chose to go with just the black and white, but they did. So mom is up in her tower sniping at zombies one day when her son is able to wander across an open area with zombies. Apparently because he's not making any noise, he trips and falls, and the mom says, "Don't even think about it," and he starts crying, which attracts the attention of all the zombies. So, little boy is surrounded by zombies. Mom starts sniping at them from her tower. Then she has to grab a rope, slide out of her tower, land on the ground, start shooting some zombies at close range, grab her kid and start running across an open square full of zombies, only to end up trapped and out of ammunition. She saves her last bullet for her son. Unsurprisingly, she gets saved from an unexpected source, which turns out to be another survivor that's stuck in Stalingrad. I don't want to tell any more than that because I don't want to get a copyright strike, and this one's pretty good, so you might want to finish reading the rest of it yourself. So, Mother Russia, it's pretty good. I'm going to recommend this one too. Most of these Alterna comics are really good. All the ones I got in this first issue bundle, almost all of them I'm going to give a recommendation to. Now, I have to point out a couple things on the cover. One is something I never thought I'd see, which is Zombie Stalin. The other thing, it says, 1 baby, 1 rifle, 2 million zombies. Russia's a pretty big country. It's got a lot of people there. I'd have expected it to be closer to 20 million zombies, but that's okay. So last but least, we have the Fear Diaries, which is a double-sized issue. It's $1.99 instead of $1.50, so it's twice the size for only 1/3 increase in price, which I think is a pretty good deal. This one I like a lot, although with a couple of caveats. So the Fear Diaries is about a bunch of animate teddy bears and other toys that unite to protect little children against the forces of evil. So here we see one of the little girls, one of the little kids that they're protecting against. Unfortunately, we don't learn her name and we don't see any of the other kids, so we don't really have as much of an investment as we might otherwise. The art in this is really good, and also the coloring is good. For once, there's some coloring that isn't just one color smeared across the page. There are different kinds of there are contrasting colors, which is what actually makes it look good. Here's a nice little 2-page spread that shows the different kind of colors in the art, and I think the artwork is really good. It fits this kind of story exactly. So it ends up with a fight between the good teddy bears and what appears to be the evil teddy bears, and it goes on for some time. This is really well written, and it's a good story. It could be actually a little longer. This could have been more than just one issue. This could have been a mini series. I think it's pretty good. The art's good too, although I got to say this girl's face looks a little crooked here. I think that's stylistic, but I would have changed it just a little bit to make it look a little more natural. And there's a couple other problems. There's basically this is a big battle, and again, we don't really get to know any of the human characters, and that's what these characters are fighting for, is the little kids, and we don't really get to know them. So since the kids are the stakes, what the characters are fighting for, it's actually pretty important. And this villain here is also not very clearly defined. We don't know what their goal is or what their motivation is. That's okay actually for the story, but it's something that could have been worked on a little more and been a little better. Now, one of the other caveats I mentioned is there's a bit of a deus ex machina here, where this main character says, "We were only stalling till he got here." And this character comes in, and he's called the Mage. We've never seen this character before. We've never heard of him. We don't know who he is, where he comes from, what his powers are, or anything, and it would have been helpful if he'd been introduced before. Those are about my only complaints, though. I think actually with just a little bit of rewriting, this would have been really good. Could have been even a continuing series. So this is the last for this section of Alterna comics that I'm reviewing. I'm gonna continue with the other ones that I got in this bundle of first issues. So come in next week for the next installment of reviews. I want to mention that in addition to the comics, we also got this snazzy bag with the Alterna Comics logo on it, which I take with me when I go grocery shopping, just so I can show it off. So I do like these. It's Alterna Comics. I'm going to keep reviewing them, and I actually recommend them. If you can just give them a shot, just go on their website and see which ones you think you might like. I like most of the issues that I got in this first issue bundle, so I actually am going to recommend that if you like offbeat, original, alternative comics, that you give Alterna Comics a try. Just go to their website. You can look and see which titles they have that are available, which ones you might like, and just order a couple. You can try the first issue bundle like I did. That turned out to be a really good decision for me. I'm going to continue reviewing them, and I'll see you on our next installment.